Hello. All right, let's get it going. Let's get ourselves into the Facebook group. My extra monitor's up here. All right, step by step live QA week 3. Crazy. That is wild. So group. All right. Got it. Do this. Oops. New. This. All right. Let's get new. Perfect. We are in Facebook. If you see me looking up here, it's because my other monitor is up there. I'm just trying to see what the heck we're doing. All right, it's about 1 minute until time to start. And we did have several questions that were submitted, so that's awesome. I'll go through those. We'll have time for me to go through some others. So if you have additional questions you want to put into the chat and Facebook, it's totally fine. Get them in there. I am going to pull up our questions here. Perfect. Okay. Janet says, are there templates already created in the course for the telehealth informed consent, notice of privacy practice, consent for services? Yes, there is. So if you go to the paperwork section, you will find all of that in there. I want to forewarn you of one thing that needs to be added that's not in there. So the telehealth informed consent is like 10-ish pages long. And I linked you to the government's notice of privacy practices. So you just use their template. And I just delete anything that's like medical and not related to what we do. So you can follow that link. But the other link that you're going to need to follow is the good faith estimate. We have to provide that to clients when we're private pay. And what I suggest is that you Google good faith estimate and your professional licensing body, because a lot of people have asked me, have you written one? And it did not make sense to me to write one when we have ethics boards who are flush with cash to pay attorneys to create those for them. So I would just grab one that is pre-made from your ethics board and move forward. So your clients will need the informed consent, the notice of privacy practices, and the good faith estimate form. I believe that in the informed consent, I have the stuff in there already for, what's the word? There's a little piece you need about billing through credit cards, and that's already in there. There's also already a social media policy written in there. It's everything that you need. Okay. Next question. Amy says, hey, I'm thinking about doing all the things with iTherapy. I think I heard that we can blog on iTherapy as part of our listing. That is correct. And Amy says, I did therapy on iTherapy way back in the day when it first started. Forrest is such a great guy. Forrest was the owner of iTherapy. Yeah, so kind of interesting story. I was working at App State University in North Carolina, and we had some part-time staff because we were just overrun with referrals. And one of them was Carol Pulley. And this is like way back in the day before anybody was doing telehealth. And she was like, I'm doing this telehealth thing and we're going to, teach people about it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool, because at that point, I was seeing complex trauma clients for 4 years in a university, and then they would graduate. And I'm like, damn, it would be nice if we could still see each other in private practice, but I didn't have anything set up for that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not paying rent, blah, blah, blah. So I was like very excited about it and sold on the idea, but didn't have time to execute. years later, I'm starting my therapy practice and I Google EHRs for online therapy, and freaking eye therapy came up first. And it never registered for me that this was Carol's company. And so I called and I talked to Forrest and I got set up. And as we were talking, we realized like me and his wife work together at a counseling center. This is so crazy. Yeah, I love them. I love the company. I understand that it's more money than some other piecemeal things that you can put together. But if you have the money, it's so nice to have one check going out the door every month and not having to deal with a whole bunch of different companies. Love them. And make sure you mention that you're in the course because they will give you a discount. I don't get any kickbacks from them, just heads up. All right, Amy says, how important are directories in marketing, and which one, if you had to pick, would you recommend the most seeing clients in New York and New Jersey? So for an insurance-based practice, directory listings are so powerful, especially Psychology Today, that you can fill a practice without doing any other marketing. For a private pay practice, we have to do more marketing. So directory listings are super helpful. I'll tell you why in a second. I wouldn't recommend having a bunch of them, and they're not going to be enough to fill a private pay practice. So very helpful, but not enough. The one that I would go with, and I'm not a big super fan of Psychology Today for lots of reasons, but they have the corner on the market, and like tons and tons and tons of SEO, search engine optimization. So if you aren't already listed with them, know that as a new person, you can get 6 months for free by using somebody's email address who's already with Psychology Today. So you can just ask in any group and you will get like 100 replies of people giving you their email address. So you can get those 6 months for free. If you specialize in working with Black women, then Therapy for Black Girls is a really powerful and high referral based directory listing. Other than that, if you see the opportunity to get on a directory for free or super duper cheap, it's going to help with SEO. It may not help with direct referrals, but it'll help with SEO. So you will be found more. Okay, Janet, we talked a lot about niche, and that was Janet's question in our meeting with our Level Up folks. So I won't go into that unless other people who are here have questions about it who were not in that meeting. All right, Janet says, I created a business name, Return Mindfully, PLLC. Can I change to my actual name for website marketing, Facebook, and then just have the business name CYA? Nobody really needs to know the business name, right? Well, sort of, kind of. You will have to have your business name on your website, somewhere on your Facebook page, etc. Because being a business, being a incorporated entity, allegedly provides you some degree of protection in terms of your personal assets. If somebody were to sue you, theoretically, if you have your practice run as a corporation, then they could get money from your corporation, but not from your personal assets. Theoretically. I say theoretically because, they call it a veil between your personal assets and your business assets. So there's potential somebody could reach through the veil, but it provides some level of protection. So when you're marketing, when you're doing anything related to your business, you can use your first name as a primary thing, but you do want to have your company name on the bottom of your website, somewhere on your Facebook page, so that if shit were to ever go down, all of your marketing is tied to your business. So my business name is actually just my name, Amber Lyda, PsyD, my degree, comma, PA, which my husband just told me yesterday what that stands for, and I forget. Professional affiliation. And I'm trying to think, I'm not going to go on that tangent. That's not going to be helpful for you. But you don't have to have your website domain be your business name. You just have to have your business name on the bottom of your website. So just put it in the footer. All right. I am stumped with actionable steps to create my ideal schedule. It all seems to depend on getting higher paying clients and fewer numbers of them to serve them better. Okay, love this question. So I'll show you what I do. And let me share my screen. So what I like to do is, and you can do this electronically or you can do it on paper. Let me make sure it's showing you what I want it to show you. Okay, there we go. So what I do is I have my current schedule. So this is my current schedule, right? And then let's see if I've deleted it. I usually will build a second, I don't need that, a second calendar and call it like ideal schedule or something like that. Maybe this was it. Yeah. We don't need to look at that one. That was when I was working way too much. So I would create a second calendar. So let's just do it together so you can see. Create a new calendar. Ideal schedule. Okay. Create calendar. All right, cool. It's created it. Let's get out of settings. And here's ideal schedule. So I want to get rid of all of this stuff for the time being. Okay, so nothing's in there. So now we are in our ideal schedule, display this only. That would have been nice. So I might say, every morning I want to work out, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make this repeating. No, I want to repeat every day. There we go. And like I'm ever going to do that, but whatever, we'll put it in there and you can pick your color. And what I might do is pick a single color for your ideal schedule and build it out as if there were no obstacles to you living your dream life. Okay. So imagine you're getting paid all you need to get paid. Imagine that you have left your job, if that's an issue, that your schedule is yours to make however you want. Make it here now. Then you're going to have your current schedule pulled up, right? So I can see the overlap where things don't match up. Then you're going to do one more thing. You're going to create one more calendar that is your interim, your transition calendar. So let's do this. Let's create a new one. And this is our, I'm trying to get to the ideal calendar, but life is not going to let me do that immediately. And so go through, and to the degree that you have a little bit of wiggle room, make your new schedule. So this is a transitional schedule. And then you'll have all three, and I would make it all the same color, or else it's going to get real confusing. So maybe make it red or something like that, or orange, so that you can look at your calendar. And when you have some flexibility, you can move things either to the transition schedule or to the ideal schedule. And you're slowly going to make all of those schedules align. All right, let me stop sharing and see if that was helpful at all. Okay, where are you guys? I have too many screens. I don't know where you guys are. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, we can talk more about niche for sure, I'm going to show you, let me pull up my exercise that I did with our marketing intensive folks so you can see a little bit about niche. So that would have been week 2. Pull this up. Okay, so I should start by reminding you that your niche or your flow client doesn't need to be based on a diagnosis, a demographic, a theoretical orientation, a technique. Like I do EMDR and that's my niche. It can be, it certainly can be. I have a friend who does behavioral interventions for people with pelvic floor issues that are exacerbated by anxiety. That's a freaking niche. That is a niche. Most of us will not have a niche that deep. And instead, we are drawn to a particular personality style or a set of traits in another human being. And so that is our flow client. So I don't even like using the word niche. I don't really like using ideal client. I like using flow client, and I'll show you why. And by the way, I'm through all of the questions that were submitted. So if you have other questions, pop them in the chat in the Facebook group. And then I have to go here. Okay. So this was our week 2 lesson. And I talked in here for the marketing intensive. I talked in here about why it's so important to understand your flow client. And to summarize, we are more fulfilled when we're seeing the people that we are great at working with. And their treatment is exponentially better when there are flow people. That makes sense, right? Right? So the happiest people spend much of their time in a state of flow, the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will do it even at great cost for the sheer sake of doing it. So you think about those moments in therapy where you have felt that way, and that's what we're looking for as we're writing our copy, to write it to the sort of person that you feel flow with. So if you can call to mind moments in your sessions where you felt in flow, describe as much as you can about that on paper. This is your homework exercise if you just want to get more in touch with flow. Okay. There are obstacles that I've noticed for people in choosing their flow client. They're worried that they're going to narrow the pool of people coming into their practice so much that they don't get enough clients, or that they'll get bored. They worry that they're going to turn off a potentially great client by being too specific in their copywriting. Because in our copywriting, we are writing to one person, that one flow client that we've identified. And it could be an amalgamation of people, but it's helpful to kind of give it a name. Like, this is Amanda, and this is what she's like. That can be really helpful. And then you write just to Amanda. Okay. Some people feel resistant because they don't know that they can get specific enough, or they don't know that they'll truly be competent. The reality is that when it comes to competence, we have to look at the data, right? I'm not going to just reassure you. You have to look at the data. Are your clients getting better? Do they report a positive experience with you? Can you feel it in session that it's working? And if that's not true, if those things aren't true, well, then we're going a different route. We're getting more CEs, we're getting supervision, whatever. And then you're going to get good enough that when you're in flow, you can feel it and your clients can feel it too. That's okay if we're not competent at every freaking thing. I'm going to move through these because I know that you're not in the marketing intensive. You don't need to know all of this. But I want to get to the prompts about flow clients. Okay, here we go. So if you need some triggers, here are some good ones. A time when you aha'd together, when you laughed together, when you cried together, when you read each other's minds, when you felt X together. Or you might have a memory. I remember this one time when. These are really good prompts to get you writing about your flow clients. Kristen, if I had 2 different flow clients, so she has high performing anxious clients and neurodivergent clients who struggle with connecting with others socially. What I would do is on your homepage, you're kind of writing to both. So whatever they have in common, you're sort of writing to that. And then we're going to link them to separate pages. So each one will have a separate page, because your web pages rank, not your website. So we want a page devoted to those high-performing anxious clients that uses all the language that they would use to Google a therapist. And then we want another page that uses all the language that your neurodivergent clients would use, so that Google will help them find your page. So that ends up being 3 pages, homepage, and then 2 specialty pages. All right, so here's how I tune into the details of my flow clients. I have these triggers and I think about my person, and what I do, because I have lots of clients that I've met with that I feel in flow with, I'm just going to pick one situation to start. And I'm calling to mind a particular client, a dude, he was in his 50s, super, super smart, really high achieving, but never ever felt good enough. And lots of family stuff that made him feel not good enough. So I would just go here and I would start listing out all the feelings. So not good enough, less than, low level, depressed, um, overly critical of self. Now I would just write down everything I could think of, and as often as possible in the client's words. What I have found is that it is hard for therapists to speak in client language. I think it's because we were taught therapy language in professional jargon. And so it's almost like a second language to have to translate it into client speak. So if you only have access to therapist speak, go ahead and write that and then translate it after. If you can get to exactly what the client would say with their feelings, that's ideal. So I do this for, all of these and see what I come up with. And then, so I have, is misunderstood in these ways, inspires me in this way, appreciates me when I show X part of myself, more than anything would love it if. Then I might come up with some critical moments or significant memories in their story. And if you do this for one client, and then you do the entire thing for another client that you felt in flow with, and then another one, you're going to start seeing themes that come across all of them. And that's your copy. That's your language. Now, if that feels hard to get to, you can do the exact same exercise with non-ideal clients. So the people that you're like, please don't let me get these people in the door, frustrates me by blank, gets irritated with me when blank, probably elicits this response from most other people, is misunderstood in these ways, inspires me in this way, doesn't appreciate it when I show X part of myself, etc. So lots of prompts. And then you go back and you look for the themes. So I hope that's like a super quick and helpful overview. I know you might have to go back and listen to it because we went through that very quickly. All right. Bradlicia says, I have another question about the addresses for Psychology Today. How do you choose the two addresses to use? Is it okay to use business addresses in the area? Any other ideas? Yeah. So the way that I think about it is from a marketing point of view. And I'm thinking, if I know my flow client, I have a better idea about where they might live in the state in which I'm licensed. So I use the hell out of Google. I knew I needed my clients to be able to pay my rate. So I typed in socioeconomic status, zip code, Florida. And I looked at the range of zip codes and the range of SCS to see like, where is it that people have money? What zip code do I need to target to make sure that I am hitting a place where clients have cash? So that's one. And then other demographics, for example, where I live in Marco Island, Florida, the average age is probably 70, and that's not my flow client. And so I wouldn't target, even though Marco Island has a lot of money, I wouldn't target Marco Island because those are not my clients based on age. So you can just Google all the kinds of demographic stuff you want. I even Googled at one point, like SES and city density and zip code, because I wanted the most people with the most money zip code is what I was looking for. So when you add the second zip code, you only need the zip code. When you add the second address, obviously you need the full address. So I haven't found any issues with putting in whatever the hell address I wanted to put in. They might have something to say about it at some point, but if they do, then you'll just change it. You could literally use like the UPS store address and see what happens. I don't think that they're checking it personally. All right. What other questions do we have? Okay. So Redlicia says, so I've done that. I mean, the actual address is you have to enter PT. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would just use a generic address and see what happens. I mean, what are they going to do? It would be cool if they just let you put in a zip code and not have to fill out the address, but you know. The other thing that this would make you very unpopular in Facebook groups. So probably don't do it. You could do it in step by step, they would get it. But so for example, I had a friend contact me and they specialize in working with people with who are LGBT. I'm just thinking, do they also work with the rest of the letters? I mean, they would say really that their target are lesbian women, and somewhere between like 40 and 60 who are professionals. And that immediately tells me like, oh, this area in Florida would be a really good place to target, or if young professionals who identify as LGBT, Wilton Manors, Florida, great place to target, right? So sometimes just knowing somebody from that state, you might be able to talk with them about some of the demographics that your clients share. And they might be able to say, oh, this area is a good fit for that. It's a little risky to do it in big Facebook groups because, people are buttheads in big Facebook groups, but I think amongst friends, it's totally fine to do that in step-by-step or, to the degree I know, I'll share, but I'm geographically challenged, so I don't know a whole lot. All right, what other questions do we have? And as you're typing, I'm going to just double check my form, make sure that I'm not missing any. Great question, Nicole. Yeah, I would love to talk about the pros and cons of being licensed in different states. Yes, I would. All right, cool. Oh, that question was in here. Did you just put it in there? Doesn't matter. Okay. So what I like to tell people is I guess the first question is, are we insurance-based or are we private pay or are we a hybrid? Because the answer is different. If you are insurance-based, you're probably not having trouble getting clients and you probably don't need to get licensed in another state. If you're insurance-based and you are having trouble getting clients, maybe because your state is small or whatever, sure, getting licensed in another state would probably be helpful. Before I went through the drama of getting licensed in another state, I would first look for, are there states where I don't have to go through the licensure process, where there is reciprocity? So for example, all of you can practice in Florida with a simple form and a fee. It's very easy to do. Vermont and South Carolina have similar processes in place where it's just basically a form. So I would first look at that. Then the second part of my answer is this. If you're looking to have a private pay practice and you don't know how to market your practice in your own state, simply adding another state is not going to do the marketing for you. You're still going to have to learn to market. And so here's how it worked for me with multiple licenses. I was licensed in North Carolina because I worked there. And then I moved to Florida, which is my home state. So I got licensed here as well. So I just hung on to the North Carolina license because I had a lot of connections there and I knew that they would be referring to me. So I'd already done the marketing just by having good relationships with people and with them knowing my work because we work together, right? And then something I thought about was like, I wonder if I should get licensed in New York because we have a lot of people from Florida who go to New York half the year and then come down to Florida the other half of the year. So if I was going to pursue another license, like if I didn't have enough clients or, there's no way to not have enough clients in Florida if you know how to market. But if I had a client who was going to be going back and forth, I would have pursued the licensure. I did have a client move to Missouri. I got temporarily licensed there while she was there. So, like sometimes situations come up that make it make sense to get another license. They're a pain in the butt. Like it's a lot of paperwork. So something that's coming down the pipe is something called compacts. Compacts are agreements. They're basically contracts between states. And the way that they're working is that each of our professional bodies is pursuing a contract between the states, and some of them are farther ahead than others. So for example, if you're a psychologist, you probably are aware of the Psych Pact, Psychologist Compact. And in that compact, we have like 28 states or something crazy who have all agreed that if you're licensed in any one of those states, that's good enough, and you can practice in the other states. And there is an agency that you basically register with, and it's almost like going through the licensure process, all the crap that you have to send them, but then it's good across all of the states and you're able to practice across all of the states. That is coming down the line. We're just in different places with our various professional bodies. So I'll add this about marketing across states. The reason that I made the marketing intensive is because the way we're taught to market only works in our local range. So there are some different strategies to market across state. And this is a really good time to be doing it. So traditionally, the way that we marketed, I'm going to stick with online for now because it'll be cleaner. The way we marketed online was through SEO, search engine optimization. And what would happen is, this is how, like, I'm going to give you a very broad understanding of search engine optimization. Let's say that you specialized in anxiety. So you wanted to rank for the keyword anxiety. You knew your ideal client was typing into Google therapy for anxiety near me. So you want to rank for anxiety, but I mean, the world is a big place. Think of all of the people trying to rank for anxiety. It's freaking impossible to rank because there are hundreds of thousands of people, probably more, trying to rank for it. And there are companies like BetterHelp who have a ton of money to pour into paying Google to rank them, right? So we don't stand a chance, except that people who help you with SEO traditionally will connect that word anxiety to your zip code or to your state, not your state, to your city or to your county, usually to your city. So then the pool is smaller that you're competing against. So you're competing against anxiety in Marco Island. Well, there are many fewer people to compete against because those two keywords eliminate a lot of areas, right? So it's easier for me to rank. Well, when we're seeing people across our whole state, it's very difficult to rank for anxiety. There are way too many people. So what we have to do when we're trying to advertise across many other states is something called content marketing. We want to market by a word or words that are helpful to other people, so our stuff gets shared. So for example, I wouldn't try to rank for anxiety. I would try to rank for anxiety when flying. So real specific. And I would have some sort of freebie that people could download to help them with their flight anxiety. And the reason that I'm going to give this freebie is twofold. Number one, I'm going to trade the freebie for their email address. I want their email address because maybe they're not ready for therapy now, but 6 months from now they will be. And if I've had them on my email list and I'm once a month sending out something helpful to my email list, I'm staying front of mind for those folks. So when they think about therapy, they're going to think about me. They're going to sign up with me. The other reason I'm giving them a cool freebie is because they're more likely to share the link to my website if they're sharing something free with a friend. So if I make a flyer on how to deal with flying anxiety, or whatever the heck it's called, and they're like, oh my gosh, my cousin Jim has flying anxiety, I'm going to share this with him and tag them. Well, now I'm not having to rely on Google alone to get my message out. I'm relying on other people. And the more people hit my website, the more that's telling Google, oh, this website's really helpful. So the more they share that website over and over and over again. We cannot compete financially with ads and things like that when we're trying to go outside of our narrow geographic range. There's just too much money by too many big companies. We also can't compete on SEO with generic words like anxiety unless they're tied to something else like a geographic area that narrows the pool of people using it. So we are going to be helpful out loud We're going to create useful resources for people. And that is how we get traction online and beyond our area. Okay, let me know if that makes sense. And if you have other questions. I'm going to show you while I'm waiting for your questions, something called Canva. I'm sure I've mentioned it 1,000 times, but while we're waiting for questions, might as well show you just in case. All right. Canva is a free program to create cool shit. You can create social media posts, you can create flyers, anything that you might want to create, you can do it in Canva. They have a free version and a paid version. Their free version is pretty dang robust. So you really probably aren't going to need the paid version. The paid version is still cheap. So let's say that you wanted to make a flyer. I'm going to click on the flyer here. It's going to open up. Slowly. They have these awesome templates already made for you that you can just borrow and change as you would like. So I'm going to put this one in here. Let's say we want to put a picture of ourselves. You'll have uploaded pictures of yourself. Why am I being picky? This is just for an example. Okay. And then I can adapt the text to be whatever the heck I want it to be. I can change colors, I can change fonts, I can change font size. I'm not a good graphic designer, so I tend to leave them how they are created and just change what the text says. And heads up, strong recommendation to put, if you're giving out paper flyers anywhere, to put a QR code on there that links to your website. Super easy to do, oftentimes completely free, if not free, very cheap, because people aren't going to type in your website anymore. We're too lazy for that. So I would put a QR code so it links directly there. And I would give them some incentive to click on the QR code. So maybe I would say, maybe I want to lead them to a blog that gives helpful tips for XYZ, right? So I'm going to say, here are 7 tips to de-stress after being with your family over the holidays. And that QR code is going to take them to a blog where I've written up those steps. Google's going to freaking love it because there are people on our website and they're spending time there. Google loves that stuff. Okay, I want to show you one other thing while we're in here. So in Canva, you have a ton of pre-made templates that you can use, like just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. So you really don't need to go any farther than that. They even have workbook templates and things like that. But if you are like, I'm not satisfied, there's not enough cool stuff on there, there is another website called Creative Market. And Creative Market has all sorts of templates that you can buy and then upload into, let's close this, it's pulling out my bandwidth. You can upload into Canva to edit in whatever ways you want to edit. So I have a little bit of, sometimes I need to buy something to get myself motivated to do something. Like, have you ever bought gym clothes because you're like, okay, if I buy this outfit, then I'm definitely going to go to the gym. I feel that way about designing stuff in Canva. So I go to Creative Market and I put in the search bar, something like, let's say, workbooks, Canva template. Always put Canva in there. Otherwise, they're going to give you things made in different programs that you don't have access to and you don't want to pay for. And then it will come up with these beautiful workbooks somebody else has already created. And I'm like, yes, please, I'll pay $17 for that. Upload it into Canva, edit it how I need to edit it, and bam, I've created a workbook. So you should totally do that. All right. How do you create a QR code? If you just go to YouTube and YouTube that, they're going to be able to give you a step-by-step way to do it. It's not hard and you can do it within Canva. So I would Google or YouTube, how do I create a QR code within Canva? All right. Oh, curious about HIPAA compliant scheduling products and software. I'd like to start small and try and piecemeal products. Okay, great. So if you're going to get an EHR, then your EHR will have a scheduling feature in it, and you can just connect it to your website. I would keep things as simple as possible and schedule through an EHR if you're going to have one. And EHRs that I like, I mean, they're all very, very similar, but the heaviest hitters are Simple Practice, Theranest, and Therapy Notes. Those are probably the most popular and range in prices, but all of them have a scheduling feature and they're all HIPAA compliant. You'll just remember to get your BAA, your Business Associates Agreement, from them. If you weren't going to use an EHR, gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's a medical scheduling software that's HIPAA compliant. If you are, let me think about it this way. Okay, I got it. If you're looking for a software where they can schedule their free consults on their own, which I highly recommend, then you can use your EHR, or you can use something like Calendly, which is very cheap because they're not a client yet, so it doesn't have to be HIPAA compliant. But if you want them to be able to schedule or reschedule their therapy sessions, which I detest, I want to have total control over my calendar, then it's going to be through your EHR. What I did in the beginning, because I didn't have an EHR, and I didn't know to have them schedule the free consultation themselves. So I was only scheduling my ongoing appointments. The way that I scheduled them was through my video software. So I used Zoom, connected to secure video. And right at the end of the session, I would just open the software and be like, same time, same place, same time next week. And be like, yes. And I'm like, cool. And I would just click the button, and I set it up to automatically export to my Google Calendar so that I could see, what I had available and what I didn't. And that's how I did it. Questions? I know that probably sounded more confusing than it needed to be. I know it takes a minute for you to hear me. There's a little bit of a delay. Questions, follow up, let me know. Okay, so I'm going to give it about 1 more minute to see if any other questions come through. If not, we can always wrap early. And would you just have to stare at me awkwardly looking at the screen and waiting to see if any other questions come up? Yeah, the LMHCs, their ethics codes are a little tight when it comes to folks who aren't yet clients, like more than any other. We're all allowed to, sure, we need to protect privacy, but yes, I do have recommendations on websites, but they're not clients yet. So it's okay, right? LMHC, professional ethics, talk about how important it is, even if they're not yet a client, to try to protect their privacy and confidentiality. So depending on your degree type, you may or may not be as conservative as some folks are. All right, Lori, Ann, I would suggest working on Squarespace. Unless you are super duper tech savvy, WordPress is going to be outside of our competency. Squarespace is drag and drop. They have beautiful templates, but they're not as easy as, say, like Wix or Weebly to set up. But there's some rumors that they have better SEO. I don't know if that's true. They do look better to me. When I look at a website on Squarespace, they do tend to look better to me than Wix or Weebly. When I say it's drag and drop, I will say that I have grown very frustrated in Squarespace because, I'm trying to type in, I got a template. I didn't buy, I got a template in Squarespace. They offer templates, and I start like typing in my stuff and it's not fitting. And the space that they have and they won't let me change the font size or whatever. And it can get annoying. So just know that you're going to have to function within the limits of whatever template you buy. If you were in WordPress, you could create things to look exactly how you wanted to, but you're going to spend like half your life making it look exactly how you wanted to. Whereas in Squarespace, you have limited choices, still a shit ton of choices, but you don't have choice over every single little thing within the templates. I actually highly recommend getting Anna Walker's Squarespace templates. They're $400-ish, I believe. And she has a confident copy system in there. So you write good copy, it appeals to SEO. She's got it all figured out. Sometimes it goes on sale, I think for $300, but generally I think it's $400. Totally freaking worth it. They're beautiful. They're really functional and they get results. So I would go with Squarespace and an Anna Walker template. Let's see. Do you recommend hiring a lawyer separate from liability insurance? I have not. I'm paying a crap ton of money for my liability insurance and I get at least one free lawyer consult a year through them. So good enough for me. Yeah. What about patients needing to reschedule? Laura, we text back and forth about scheduling. I can't deal with phone calls. I hate getting on the phone. So if they need to reschedule, I just have them text me and then I pull up my phone and I'm like, okay, and I move it. So I don't like, this is totally a personal thing. This is not a recommendation. I just don't like people being able to mess with my schedule. I want complete control over my schedule. So they have to text me or, if you have an EHR, they can go through the portal. I use for my secure texting, Ring Central, therapist site toolbox. Yes, they're good. And not to be confused with, what is the name of that company? There's some company started by a non-therapist and it has a similar name, could be like therapist toolbox. I don't know, it has a similar name. And they have a huge Facebook group. And they allegedly asked a bunch of therapists for like worksheets and stuff that they created to help clients and then repackaged them and were like selling them and stuff without permission. So be careful, be careful. But that's not this company that Brad Lisi is talking about. The therapist site toolbox are excellent. They're really, really good. All right. There's also someone in our marketing intensive whose wife creates websites and does it on the freaking cheap because she's just getting her business started. So if you want a website built from scratch by somebody who codes, I can get you in contact with them as well. All right. I don't see any other questions. So we are going to wrap. We're just a few minutes early, but I don't want to hold you here if you don't have any other questions. So I will see you all next week, already week freaking 4. So next week we are halfway through the course. Be aware, you are always going to feel behind in an online course at some point. And that's because we put so much freaking information in there that there's no reason to go through all of it before the 8 weeks. And there's no way to go through all of it in 8 weeks. So you can think about the course almost like a membership site. It's there for you forever. You have lifetime access to pick and choose what you need when you need it. And then just walk through the path that we've laid out for you in email, just lightly doing all the things you need to do without doing all the things. We can pretty it up later. Okay. Sweet. I will get you that contact for the website building. Actually, let me see if I can add Margaret. Yeah. So Margaret used this person. Hey, friend, can you share the contact information for Lydia, your website creator? All right, sweet. So we'll get that for you and I will see you all next week. Keep chugging along.